Hello, former Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name's Sean Wasserkrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. And today's episode, we are going to be doing a non-spoiler and spoiler discussion of the 2024 remake of Roadhouse on Amazon Prime. Now, I'm going to admit I have never seen Roadhouse until this week before this one came out. Now, here's the thing: I have seen many parts of Roadhouse, but I had never watched it.
It's one of those movies that's always on cable somewhere.
Exactly. So you always catch parts of the movie, but I had never actually sat down and watched Roadhouse from beginning to end. And wow, there's some things I never saw when I was watching it. It's definitely not the movie I thought it was. But I mean that in like I guess a good way. But we're talking about 2024's Roadhouse. We might go back and forth between them just because you kind of.
I'm sure there'll be some discussion of it.
Oh yeah, there definitely is gonna be some discussion in the spoiler area. But yeah, Roadhouse. When I first heard that it was going to be Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor of all people in this, I was like, okay. And then Doug Liman. Yeah, we like Doug Liman, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and a bunch of other things that we actually enjoy. I was intrigued. Got the first trailer. I was even more intrigued. I was actually generally excited. I was actually kind of bummed that this wasn't going to be in theaters. This was just going to be off Prime. Granted, that means I can watch it at home and not have to spend like $20 to go see it in theaters, but I still felt like this probably should be in theaters, but okay, I guess I'll watch it at home. But yeah, what were your general thoughts of Roadhouse before we go into the actual film?
I had seen the original one a long time ago, and I just rewatched it recently, a couple of years ago, and then again this week because I wanted to, kind of refresh my memory. And I enjoy it. It's definitely kind of 80s cheese, but it's kind of that fun,
it's
80s
so
cheese.
much fun.
Yeah,
so much fun.
It has kind of a lighthearted tone, but it's got some good action stuff to it. It does get in some weird stuff with throat ripping and guys threatening I fuck guys like you in prison. Some weird moments.
Honestly, the best line in the whole movie is not that. It's the guy who's like, for $20 you can kiss him, and the guy goes, oh, really? That killed me. The delivery of that dude going, really? I was like,
and then he's like, how do you have $20? Anyway.
That was gold. That was so gold. Anyway, yeah.
But then going to this one, Doug Liman, obviously, like you said, with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which I love, Edge of Tomorrow. I've enjoyed Jumper, the Firstborn movie. He's made a lot of stuff that I really like. Jake Gyllenhaal, love him. He's one of those guys that it has a great range to him because he can be like, he can do serious dramas like Prisoners or things like that. He can do fun comedies and it's more lighthearted, and he can do action movies. And this one, he kind of get to do all three of those things. So I thought it was perfect.
Whether it's a good or a bad thing, he gets to do all three of them in this movie.
Yeah, but and then I was looking forward to it just because Roadhouse is the kind of movie that's kind of perfect for a remake because it's not like this something you hold up as a gold standard. You can't touch this movie, but it's something that like has a good bones to it, which could be updated, or kind of redone. And then with the cast and everybody involved, I'm looking forward to it. Saw the trailer for it, and I was sold. I love the trailer for this movie. I love the tone they found in the trailer, things like that. Then we found out it was just going straight to streaming, which was extremely frustrating. Which, like you said, people don't have to pay to see it. But the problem is, this is the kind of movie. I mean, people only think of like sci-fi and action blockbusters as the movies that need to be seen in theaters. This, I think, would have been so fun with a crowd. Because I even heard like reports when it did screen like South by Southwest Festival, things like that, where it's like, people were cheering and stuff like that. And I would have loved to have seen this in a crowd like that instead of just sitting alone in my house staring at my TV. But yeah, that's how I felt going into it. I was really looking forward to this, and I had high expectations.
So here's the thing that I already know we're going to be at odds on, because I already know what you think of the movie. Conor McGregor. Let's get the Conor McGregor out of the way.
Let me start with this.
Hold on.
Okay.
Spoiler. Brian fucking despises Conor McGregor in this movie. And I think Conor McGregor is one of two people who are trying to be like the old Roadhouse film. I think he was casted perfectly for the role that he is in this film. I think they just said, Connor, go be Conor McGregor. And he goes out there and he's not acting. He's just
Oh, it's
coming
not
out there. He's not acting at all. But if you go back to the original Roadhouse, there's a lot of people not acting in that movie. He's a guy who basically right before each scene went back and rewatched Roadhouse and goes, I got it. And went, action. Oh, Conor McGregor knew the assignment. The problem is that he knew the assignment for the 1980s Roadhouse and not necessarily the assignment for the 2024 Roadhouse.
I will agree with that in part, and I'll get to that. I love the idea of Conor McGregor in this movie. There's this guy who is he's got such a big personality to him. He's super confident, almost to a fault. He's physically imposing. You know what he can do. He can cause damage. He'd be a great opponent for Jake Gyllenhaal's Dalton. And I love the idea of putting Conor McGregor. When I've heard he was in this movie, I'm like, yes, I can totally see that. He'll be perfect for it.
He's a larger than life UFC fighter. The only person I would think of as a UFC fighter who would have been perfect for this would have been Chael Sonnen, which some people will know, some people don't. But if you know who Chael Sonnen is, you'd be like, oh, he would honestly be a great Dalton personally. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. But so I like the idea of him. But the problem is, like you said, I think very much he kind of felt more like he was in that old movie, which is a little more cheesy, but which made him stand out that much more like a sore thumb being in this one, which is not quite that same tone to it. But even then, even if he was in the other one, there's a couple things. First of all, this weird little wide-legged waddle he does.
Well, he usually does this, but I don't think they wanted him to
his legs like off to the. He just kicks his legs off to the side when he walks.
Well, that's how he always walks. But they made him stop doing the arm like
he's got a load in his
kind of
pants
step like this,
and it's like it looks ridiculous when he's walking in multiple scenes, whether it be his introduction scene or whether it be his very last scene of the movie. And then even like in the middle of a fight when he charges him at one point, he does like this weird little waddle as he charges towards him to punch him. And it looks kind of funny. So there's that part.
It looks funny, but you would run away if Conor McGregor was coming.
Also, he could not go a single second of this movie without this big goofy grin on his face.
So happy to be there.
And that's what it looked like to me. It looked like he was just happy to be like, oh, I'm part of a big Hollywood movie. And he's smiling the whole time, no matter what the dialogue is that he's delivering badly. He's just got this giant grin on his face, whether he's in the middle of a fight, whether he's in a more, he's trying to intimidate somebody. It's like if Conor McGregor was in this movie, but like tried to look intimidating, I think he would have been way more effective than just grinning through the entire movie.
But see, him looking menacing would require Conor to act, and you don't put Conor.
You can agree with me on that. He cannot deliver a single line. He's a horrible actor.
He's having fun, and because he was having fun, I had fun watching him in this movie. And when him and Dalton fight, that was awesome.
Oh, his fighting skills, because not everybody who can fight can necessarily fight
choreograph fight,
like movie fighting, stage fighting. But I thought that his fight scenes, I thought he definitely seemed imposing like that. You definitely believed everything. He definitely pulled off the moves, and I thought that part was very well done. And he wasn't enough to make me dislike this movie at all. It's just he stuck out as a sore thumb as the single worst thing about the movie.
And I disagree. He was one of the best things about this movie because he's the thing that stood out to me going, he knows what this movie's supposed to be. And I feel like everyone else, except for one other person that I will call out here in a little bit, I feel like there was two people who knew what this movie should be. And then everyone else couldn't on any particular scene. They switched back and forth between we want to be fun and goofy or we want to be serious and dramatic. And that was my problem with Roadhouse 2024. The tone for this movie it changes from scene to scene. Sometimes it wants to be old Roadhouse, and then sometimes it wants to take itself seriously. And you can't bounce back and forth like that 20 fucking times in the movie because it's just everywhere. Now, once McGregor shows up, the movie does stay more towards this kind of tone to a point, but then there's just certain moments in the movie where it's like, no, we want this to be serious. And it's like, this movie's supposed to be fun. There's aspects of this that is fun, but then you want to not dumb it down, but you want to like drown it in this, in drama stuff that just you're taking the fun out of the movie. Like, there's just certain characters that I'm just like, if this wasn't Roadhouse, I wouldn't dislike your performance. I think you're doing solid, but this isn't matching the energy that these other scenes are matching. And it just felt, the tone just was all over the place. Did it feel like that to you, or did you feel like it was pretty much straight and narrow outside of McGregor?
Well, I did feel like the tone changed, especially like I said in the second half. Like once McGregor shows up, and not because of him necessarily, but about that time is like when it decided it wasn't going for the fun tone anymore. Because the thing is, and this is in the trailer, the thing that set the movie up for me was the slap scene. That first fight scene. He's like slapping dudes, and yeah. And that's like they're really having fun with that scene. That whole thing is kind of what the tone I was looking for. Now I know it's going to get serious towards the end because even the original is not a funny film at all. I mean, there's funny moments, like, but it's more because of bad acting.
It's unintentionally funny until it realizes that it is funny, and then you just laugh along with it.
But then, like, the second half of that movie, as far as the movie is concerned, is completely serious, you know. Yeah. And so this one kind of does the same thing. It's just a little bit more jarring because the funny parts in this movie are intentional, and so it's like when it takes this turn in the second half, it feels a little bit jarring. But early on, though, I didn't have a problem with the tone so much. I mean, there were definitely lighthearted moments. There's a couple I'm going to talk about later in the spoiler part of it, but generally speaking, the movie mostly delivered on what I wanted it to deliver on. I enjoyed this movie a lot. I think Jake Gyllenhaal did a great job. I do agree with you. There are certain storylines which we'll talk about which didn't need to be in the movie, or certain moments that need to be in the movie. But yeah, I mean, this movie is kind of what I hoped for, what I expected. Maybe not quite to the top level of what I expected, but it succeeded for me. There are things from the original movie that I would have liked to see, and like the whole "be nice" speech when he's kind of instructing the other bouncers. I would have loved to have seen that be in the movie.
I got a real issue with that. We'll talk about it in the spoiler because
I think I know what you're going to say too.
That irked me so much. But yes, that scene, I was waiting for that scene because it's a great scene. It's a great scene in the original. It's great, and
it's one of the classic scenes in the movie. Be nice until you don't need to
have
not
to be nice.
Things like, and the whole speech, not just that line, but the whole speech I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
but we didn't get that in this movie, and there are things like that I would have liked to have seen. But you know, I didn't need to see throat ripping, things like that, because it's a little ridiculous. So I was fine with them not doing that.
Ridiculous. It's just you didn't want to completely copy Roadhouse. You could have had him do something different, which he does do a throat thing, but he doesn't rip the throat out.
Right, which I thought was kind of a close. It's more realistic too. I mean, I don't know.
It was close enough. I was fine with it. I didn't need a throat rip. I just
besides, nobody's going to out throat rip MacGruber, so can't do that.
Don't bring MacGruber into this.
But I mean, I like you said, even though the tone did change a little in the second half, and especially because I've already watched this a second time just earlier today, and I think I might have even enjoyed it more now, knowing what to expect, knowing getting into, and knowing to kind of, you know, overlook a lot of Conor McGregor's bad acting. But I enjoyed this. I thought it was a ton of fun. It's not exactly what I wanted, but it was very good.
Okay, so for me, I thought the action, I liked it. I didn't necessarily like the camera work because I kept trying to do like this like third person camera or first person view camera. It was very jarring, which sometimes you do that to make it look more realistic, so that way you can kind of hide the stunt choreography and stuff like that. But sometimes it was just these quick swirl lip cans. Like it's Lyman trying to do something different.
You know what it is the fight scenes looked the fight scenes I thought were really well choreographed, and the hits seemed really brutal and they seemed real and things like that. I was trying to figure out how they were doing it, because sometimes it feels like they might have done it slow and then sped it up so they could like make contact with somebody. Other times it seems like they almost might have CGI'd like a couple frames. And whenever there's a fight, there was kind of this little moment, just quick moments, like it seemed artificial like that.
Like how it is with freaking director I can't stand. Guy Ritchie. How Guy Ritchie does these quick, fast. I'm like, stop! Just let them just go real time. Like, stop doing this quick. Like, you can tell, like he put you on like ×3 speed. Like, stop doing that. And like, I loved the action of this movie, but it did feel it was the speed of it and the camera work that kept taking me out of it every time, because it was just like, you know what? If that was just shot normally, probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. But there's so many times where it's doing these quick camera jerks and switches. I'm trying to like figure out like I'm like doing that, like I'm moving like I'm in a fight, but I'm just trying to like catch the right angle of what the hell's happening right now. And
part of it is like, trying to replicate the chaos of a bar fight. I get that, because that's the same thing. He's the one who, like I said, directed the first Born Identity movie, and they and people love that about that. It's like these fight scenes because they seem so,
shaky cam and stuff
the
like
shaky
that.
cam. Born is kind of like the beginning of the shaky cam era, and I feel like I get what he was going for, but sometimes it was a little too much.
This felt less like shaky cam Born Identity and more like Hardcore Henry, just to do it weird and unique and different. But it just didn't work for me. I agree, Jake Gyllenhaal's great, but Jake Gyllenhaal, I felt like, was in a tough position because there's times where he wants to act like Swayze, and there are times where he kind of realized, I'm not Swayze, I just have to be Jake Gyllenhaal. And there's times where I just felt like I enjoy his performance, but there are scenes where I feel like he's like, how can I Swayze this? And he doesn't have the Swayze in him. I love him. He ain't Swayze. He can't just look at someone and do a half smirk and like make the clothes drop like Swayze. He's Jake Gyllenhaal. He's a great actor, but he ain't got that. He ain't got the Swayze in him. So there's times where I feel like he was trying to be Swayze but couldn't do it. So he just decided, I'm just gonna do my own thing. I still enjoyed it, but it's one of those things where it's like, part of me is wondering if I didn't watch Roadhouse before I watched this, would I have these same problems, or would I pick these things up because I don't have the reference to Swayze in the original Roadhouse or the tone or anything like that? And that's what I'm not sure on. But I can't fix that. I've seen it. I know what it is. And I feel like this movie wants so badly to be it, but at a more serious tone, a more serious level. And it just doesn't work. There's this romantic subplot that is fucking pointless to the movie and really goes nowhere.
It's not but that was the same in the first movie too, honestly.
I know, but in the 80s that was you could get away with that, and that wasn't a problem. Now it's that you can't pull that same crap. And then they also try to add all these other subplots here and there. There's this, and I'm sorry, the performance of this one person is so god awful. Hannah Love Lanier. She plays Charlie, the little girl, or not little girl. She's a teenager. She's awful in this movie.
I didn't think anything of her acting one way or the other, but I did feel like that is one of the storyline subplots which was completely unnecessary. You
want to talk about Conor McGregor couldn't get through a scene without smiling? That girl can't act her ass out. Like every time she's talking, she's like part of me wanted to go, is she autistic? Like if she is, and I'm not gonna attack her for it, because that she can't do anything about that. I looked, she's not. So I just couldn't understand what she was trying to go for. Like, is she trying to be quirky and weird? Like, is she trying to be like Zooey Deschanel to a point? Like, I don't know. Nothing in her performance worked for me. She's got good chemistry with Jake Gyllenhaal in the film. It's just her line delivery, her acting skills are fucking atrocious in this film. Like her first scene, I'm like, did we just do this in one take? Because I feel like we probably could have gone through these couple more takes. Oh god, every time she's on screen, I was like, oh god, here's Charlie again. Fuck, this is bad. And then Magnuson, I think he had potential to be a really great bad guy, but once again, he feels like a bad guy that would fit perfectly for the 80s movie, but they wouldn't let him go full 80s with it. They wanted to keep him teetering on this tone. And honestly, for a bouncer in this movie, Jake Gyllenhaal doesn't do much bouncing in this movie. He basically just kind of sits at the bar. And
like the first night and one other time he does, and otherwise he kind of is like, oh, I trained these guys. That's my job, is to train the other guys to do that.
It's like, dude, like go be awesome.
And then when shit really starts going,
just sitting there
in the fan, he's sitting there drinking his coffee.
Yeah, I'm just like, what are you doing? You're not deserving your $5,000 a week. You're not doing anything.
If I'm Frankie and I'm paying $5,000 a week, I'm like, oh, you better get up off your ass and do
exactly, because
Go
The
ahead.
place is damaged at this point before he even remotely gets into the argument or the fight.
Which I will
The
say,
play's already ruined.
Frankie, Jessica Williams, I don't dislike her, but I just felt like she was just all her line deliveries were just bland and one note. It's like I felt like you could have put
Yeah.
somebody in there with a little more personality to her.
But
I
once
don't.
again,
I've liked her in other movies. Just she kind of felt like she was just kind of reading lines in this one.
once again, she is a character that I felt like was trying to go with the 80s tone, but the script wasn't letting her. The script
See, I
wanted her
didn't
to
feel
be
it at
more
all.
serious.
I felt that she was not
I felt like she was trying to be
stoned at all.
fun and like kind of a badass chick and like, oh, I'll go knock someone out. I'm fun. I felt like she was trying to be more towards the 80s tone, not fully, because you never go full 80s on it, but I felt like she was trying, but the script wouldn't allow her to do it. Now, one actor who I really enjoyed with McGregor because they knew what movie they were in was Arturo Castro as Mo.
Yeah.
I loved him in this movie. He was great. Every time he was on screen, I was like, yes, more screen time for him, please. I want him on this. I want him. I would watch him as kind of like this innocent bystander, just watch it the whole movie and then just commentating. He's basically what's his Michael Pena from Ant-Man. I would take him just being that for this movie the whole way through. But yeah, it's just there were a lot of things to like. I wasn't watching this movie going, oh my God, this sucks. It was just more or less, I was watching it going, if this would just pick a tone, either go full 80s with it or be serious. Stop flip-flopping and just stick with where you're going to go with. So I can know what, at any given scene, what mood do I need to be in while watching this. I would have enjoyed it a lot better. I thought the action sequences were great, but the camera work was what ruined it for me. I think Connor, as awful as he is, was having a blast, and he made me have fun watching him. I think Gyllenhaal, when he was just being himself and not trying to Swayze it up, which he doesn't do it a lot. I'm not saying that like he tried doing it the whole time. There's just moments where I could tell he was trying to. I think he's having fun. I think he would have probably loved it being more like actual 80s Roadhouse than the serious tone of it. But it was a fine movie. It's something that I could put on in the background and then watch certain scenes, but okay, and then go back and do what I'm doing. So I didn't dislike the movie. I was a little disappointed in what I was expecting it to be based off the trailer. But I think once again, it was more the tone and kind of the direction of it. There's a lot to like, but there's a lot of wrong with the movie as well. So for me, I liked it better than Ghostbusters. I'm giving it a 64%. Solid 3 stars.
Actually, on rewatch, I bumped mine up to 4 stars now. It's
Really?
currently it won't be here the year. It's currently my top film of the year, my favorite film of the year.
You had this rated higher than Dune?
Dune is number 4.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, I have Ghostbusters above Dune, so I'll tell you that.
Oh man. Okay.
That's my thing is when I think
Brian's prerogative. That's Brian's choice. He's allowed to like what he likes, guys.
But here's my thing though. It's like Dune, it part of the quality of filmmaking. I can see that, how well that thing was done. But I would watch this movie 10 times before I would watch Dune Part 2 again.
Well, it's because you could watch this probably twice before you finish Dune Part 2.
That's it. But also, I think I haven't seen Dune 2 a second time because I think about it. I'm just like, it's kind of a slog, and it's just so much of it I found kind of bland, and it's kind of like, it just, for me, it just doesn't grab me as something I want to rewatch. And for me, my enjoyment of a film is like, do I really want to watch this again? It's like,
I would rewatch Dune Part 2 right now if I could. But anyway, what was your score? You said you gave it 4 stars? 4 stars, which is at least a 75% for Brian in terms of my grade system. It's at least 75%. But if it's the number 1 movie of the year, I would say it's got to probably at least be in the 80s.
It's probably a good 80.
Probably a good 80. Okay.
I pretty much just converted to exactly like 4 out of 5 would be 80 out of 100.
So that's our non-spoiler. I know we talked about a lot, but honestly, we were actually able to get a good chunk of the conversation talked about without spoiling the movie.
Yeah.
But now we're gonna go into our spoiler conversation. So here's your spoiler warning. I really thought they stretched out the UFC thing for way too long.
I feel like the backstory,
like how they broke it up and like just fucking just get it over with. Pull the Band-Aid off and just tell us what the fuck's happening.
Well, I feel like the backstory of the UFC and the fighter, did he kill him? Did he just
Yeah, I'm pretty
seriously
sure.
injure
I'm
him?
pretty sure he killed him. I think that's the whole thing. Is that he
They're kind
killed
of
him.
never 100% clear on that, but it's like he at least severely
He
injured
either
him or
he
something.
either he either killed him, brain
Ended his
dead him,
career,
or
something.
paralyzed him. He did
Yeah.
something. Either way, he's not allowed to fight anymore because of it.
I felt like that subplot completely cut. You could
You
have
could
him
have.
be a former UFC fighter, whatever, but the whole thing about him struggling with what he did to this guy, it doesn't play into the rest of the movie. I don't think it was
I don't think it
necessary
does
to
either.
it. It's just like, if you want to say why he ended his career, you could have just as easily said,
He walked away because of he injured somebody or
he
accidentally.
had, or just like he could have gotten a career-ending knee injury or something like that. It didn't need to be this whole thing. It's like, oh, we have to have this serious grounded thing
Well,
where
if you
why
do
he's,
the knee injury, then you give Dalton a weakness in a fight, and you don't want to give Dalton a
which you
weakness.
could use at some point.
I know, but Dalton's supposed to be like Mr. Badass. You
But
don't want to give
I
him.
do feel like I don't even care that he has a background as a UFC fighter, but I think that it was unnecessary to have this ongoing plot.
I will say this. In the first 5 minutes, I went, "Oh no, is this gonna suck?" Because when I saw fucking Post Malone shirtless punching dudes out, I was like, "Fuck that, no." I was like, "I'm
What's
not."
funny is like I didn't know he was in this movie. I guess I hadn't paid attention to.
I didn't either, but I'm watching like,
and I'm
is
watching
that
like, is that
is
that's
that
what I say, is
Post
that Post
Malone?
Malone? And then like when I was trying to find some screenshots and things and graphics for for the channel, it's like I saw they actually have character poster of Jake Gyllenhaal. There's one of Conor McGregor and there's one of Post Malone. I'll always call him, what's his name? Something Post.
Carter. I think it's Carter.
Well, I mean his real name.
Oh, it's Arthur Post or something.
Arthur Post, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he got a character poster. He's in there for like a minute.
Because I was looking at you. It's like I'm watching it. And I'm like, okay, they're at a little underground fighting club kind of thing, and I'm watching this dude fight, and I'm like, is that fucking Post Malone? It looks like Post Malone. And then I'm like, are we fucking really watching a shirtless Post Malone beating people up and are supposed to buy this shit? But then as soon as I didn't, as soon as
but I also
Dalton
bought that when he saw who
he was like,
Dalton was. He's
I'm
like,
out.
fuck this.
That was the best acting in Post Malone's career right there. Because that's the part I believed in most. Was he was like, fuck this and go. That part I was like, okay, that would have been a good part. But yeah, I was worried in that first 5 minutes. Where I was like, oh fuck me, no. But yeah, it's like I enjoyed Gyllenhaal for what he was doing. It's just like I said, the UFC thing. When we saw like the making of the movie, we were seeing like snippets and like, oh, he's actually fighting the octagon. He's doing some fight. I was like, oh, cool. I don't think they utilized it well in the movie at all. Like we were both in agreement on that. If anything, start the movie with that. Like almost kind of like I don't know why this is the movie that pops in my head, but like Mighty Ducks, when they showed Bombay as a kid missing the shot and then with like the haze around it, like start the movie with his UFC like that. And that's it. Like just show it. He was going into a title fight. He won the fight, but he kept fighting. He killed the dude. And then we go into the Post Malone thing. And then it's like, oh, this is where he's at now.
No reason to refer back to it multiple
times.
Don't
drag it out like it's these boat dreams things, because it's like it don't fucking matter. It's like you don't need to use boat dreams as an example to give us exposition of the Dalton character. Hell, in the original, it was one line delivered by Sam Elliott. He fucked another woman, or fucked a married woman, and killed the guy in self-defense, and that's why Dalton is Dalton.
I will say, I didn't want to compare this one too much to the original movie because I know there's gonna be changes. The one thing I miss that they should have had in this movie is that Sam Elliott character. Obviously not Sam Elliott, but that
character like that.
Yeah, it could be somebody who was a mentor to him, or somebody that he calls in to help him out when things are getting too out of hand, things like that. And I felt like that would have been a great another character that they could have included in this, and I missed that. And then part of that, of course, in the original, we're spoiling the original too. Sam Elliott's character gets killed, and that kind of motivates him.
Swayze to get to that darker level.
Right now, in this one
was the burning of the bookstore.
And then putting the two in the hospital, which I don't know if it's smoke inhalation or they beat the shit out of them. I don't know.
Nothing was. They didn't look beat up or hurt or anything at the end of the movie. They looked fine.
So I assume it's just smoke inhalation or something.
Yeah.
But it's like they The whole bookstore plotline and that kid with Charlie and things like that, I felt like that was something that wasn't necessary. It's like the only reason they were there is to be that catalyst for him to go darker, when I would have rather
Yeah.
had a Sam Elliott type character in that place instead.
Exactly. It could have been his mentor. It could have been someone he trained with in the UFC.
Mhm.
It could have been somebody like that. But yeah, no, they chose like the kid route, and it didn't work, mainly because I thought that actress was atrocious, so I just didn't give a shit.
But also next door to the bookstore was the Double Deuce restaurant. So they had to have that little
I
tribute
didn't
to the
catch
Double
that.
Deuce.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
I
It
wish
was
I
just
would've.
fine. They don't reference it or anything.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, and then and like I said, when he finally does show up, we don't get those moments like when, once again, I know comparing it to Roadhouse, but this is in terms of story plot, this would make sense. Him coming in, there was never anyone wrong working at the bar. Everyone at the bar seemed squeaky clean and good.
yeah,
Whereas, like, in
I
Roadhouse,
like
like,
that. That was my favorite parts of the original, is him kind of cleaning out the people that were, either stealing from the till, or that were, fucking around with people, or that were
yeah.
too violent and have the wrong temperament, things like that.
But yeah, no, here everyone's squeaky clean and fine. It's just the people that go there are stupidly, overly aggressive and angry the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, cool, but it's like we need to have that moment where Dalton comes in and has the be nice scene. Like, hey, he just pulls that one dude aside, like, hey, he's got a knife on it. When he pulls it, just take a step back and then punch him. It's like, no, we need a little more. He gets a little moment with that,
and
his
especially
brother.
if you're going to have him just kind of sit and observe and let the other two handle it, you need to show us a little more of him training them.
Yeah, because it just boom, and it happens. Like, we're missing the Roadhouse aspect of the movie, and this is longer than the original, and it's just they don't really spend a whole lot of time in the Roadhouse doing the bouncer stuff, which is a bummer. And if it is, and when we are in the Roadhouse, it's not him doing it; it's the two guys doing it, and I wanted to see him be the reason why he's actually there, other than him just sitting in the corner watching, kind of thing.
A random side note: we talked about this in the Ghostbusters one, kind of a similar situation. Is it just me, or are you getting a vibe like they were trying to like almost lean towards those two bouncers kind of had something with each other going on?
No, I think that was more they were just buds.
Because there's a couple scenes where it's like a little weird looks they gave each other. I'm like, I didn't think so, but I was like, yeah.
No, I constituted them as being like best friends.
Yeah.
Who had just been around each other, who could give each other looks like that, and like they have their own little like language to each other. But yeah, I got so agitated when they did the callback to Be Nice. First off, wrong fucking moment, completely random. It's, if you don't hear it, you miss it, and it also doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
He's in the middle of this life or death fight against Conor McGregor. And he's like, "Be nice," as he punched him. Like,
he wasn't
reason to be in there.
No, he wasn't even punching him. This is the part where McGregor picked him up and was driving him through the
that's what it was. Yeah.
He's like, "Be nice." I'm like, we're past that. We're way past that
it's
at
like,
that point.
It's like it's not like he's calling back to anything early in the movie. So it's just him randomly yelling out "Be nice" in the middle of a fight, which, why would he do that? And it's in that same fight. The other moment that gets me is with the piano is out of tune moment.
Once again, the movie can't decide whether it wants to be the 1980s Roadhouse or be serious.
And here's my thing though. If that moment had happened early in the movie, if a fight in the bar had broken out, and he's taking care of it, and somebody slams him against the piano, or he slams him against it and says something like that, it would not have felt out of place at all, because it was kind of the tone of the first part of the movie. Yeah, it was the tone of that first part of the movie. But for it to happen in this scene, when, like I said, it's basically a life and death fight, it's like, it was like, why are they cracking jokes? You're just trying to survive. Once
again, leaning more towards it. Can't decide whether it wants to be 80s. Through all this mass craziness, everything happening, the band is still playing the entire time. The band's rocking out like they're on like fucking Live Aid with Queen, and there's no one in the bar. The bar is obliterated, and this band's still playing, like rocking their.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is that in the first movie, and even in like other movies where they have these Roadhouse things, it's like this is the kind of bar where that shit breaks out all the time, and the band just keeps going. That's why they're in their cage.
But once again, it makes sense if they were trying to be like that, but they weren't. They were trying to be serious, so that scene just felt off. Because once again, it can't decide whether it wants to be that or this or teeter the line.
I do want to say I like all the music in this movie.
The music was fine. I had
the music they were performing.
I was actually the actual band that I was just shitting on. The song when the Connor's like, "I love this song," I was like, "It's actually not a bad song. I fucking hate this." But it's like I was like, it's not a bad song. Actually, it was just like one of the songs I was actually digging the most. But you added the whole. Okay, can we get on Danielle? Is it Danielle?
Daniela Melchior, I think was her name. Ellie. Was her name.
I didn't buy anything she was delivering in this movie. I felt like she was miscast. I felt like the chemistry between her and Gyllenhaal was nothing, and it amounted to nothing. I would have believed him and Frankie together before I would have believed him and her together. I get that in the original it was a doctor, but this did not work at all for me.
I bought her in the role. The doctor, the ER doctor, especially when she comes out and she goes, "Oh, thanks for bringing me, people that are filling up my ER."
I'm keeping you busy.
I bought. No, he's keeping her busy so that people who have real emergencies might not get seen as fast because they got to deal with his shit.
Well, apparently y'all were, and that would have been like, well, they were attacking people at a bar, and I stopped it. So technically, I did stop them from hurting people.
But I buy her character as the doctor. I actually did buy her chemistry with Jake Gyllenhaal. I didn't like the whole fact they had to tie her in with her father. That whole thing is like, again, it's like you have a villain in Ben Brandt. You have this absent villain in his father, who I don't know if they're hoping to hold him for a sequel or what, because there's no reason for them to even mention him.
Yeah.
And then you have this other thing in the Dirty Cops in Joaquin de Almeida, and it's like, he wasn't necessary. But even if you have like the Dirty Cops, because that was kind of part of the first one too, it's like there's no reason to have her be related to him and add this layer to it. It's like I didn't buy that part.
No, there was no need for it at all. And then of course you have the end where once he defeats Connor or Knox, he's like, I got you covered. It's like, why do you have him covered? You don't need to.
Because he saved his daughter, I guess.
He didn't.
But at the same time,
he really didn't. She saved herself.
At the same time, though, if I'm Dalton, I'll be like, but what about everything else you've contributed to? Just because you got my back, I don't have yours. Fuck you.
Exactly. It's like, and he never saved her. She saved herself. Like she was able to take care of herself for the whole movie. Dalton she was never the damsel. And when she was a damsel, she kind of got herself out of it herself. But that whole subplot didn't work for me. Like I said, Magnuson, when I saw that he was going to be the actual bad guy, because at first I thought he was going to be like the bouncer dude, because in the trailer. What?
Oh, you mean the one that got kicked out?
No, I'm talking about the one that he looked like him and the buddy. I thought he was going to be one of them.
Oh, I see.
I felt like that was going to fit his character, but then once I realized he was the Brandt, I was like, oh, he's gonna play this totally 80s. I'm all for it. It's like game night. Like I'm for this. And it's like he was, but he wasn't fully going for it, which felt like he felt very restrained in this movie. Like I was like, oh, you can do more. I know you're capable of more.
Because he was like when you first see him on the boat. And there's like the great scene with the guy trying to give him the shave, and then even later on when he gets pissed off and he throws the phone in the water, he turns around to the guy and goes,
"Go get it." Yeah, it's just like, but like
I feel like the fact that they were having him be like, is scared of his absent dad, and like I think that kind of kept him too restrained.
We never saw the absent dad.
Instead of him just being the mastermind of whatever this villainy is, he's not able to let loose because he's basically playing second fiddle to this dude. Which, as long as we're on the subject, what exactly was the deal with them wanting the Roadhouse? Because they said they proved that it's not about drug smuggling, things like that.
Yeah.
And there's like this vague reference to him wanting the land, because he has this model that every villain with a real estate plan has. He has a model of whatever it is he wants to build.
And it's very expensive model. Don't touch it.
But there's never any clarification on it. It's just like this vague reference to it. No. And even though Jake Gyllenhaal goes on this whole big long thing about like, why do they want this land so bad? What is it about this Roadhouse they want? And like we never actually get that answer.
No, and they made his dad this over threatening thing, but we never, outside of him calling Knox saying, "Hey, I need you to handle this," we never go back to the dad. There's nothing mentioned of the dad again after that. And I'm sorry, you don't build a character like that up, and unless you're doing sequels, which I don't really want to. I don't know what the point of that was.
I'd watch a sequel, I'll be honest with you.
I would too, but I'm talking about, but his sequel, the way he left, he wouldn't be going back there. He'd be going somewhere else. So unless you're going to have him connect to Brandt there, it just at that point, it just feels like an unnecessary connective tissue because it's a sequel. Also, And it might just be me just doubling down on the hatred for the Charlie character. Her calling out what this movie is right when he shows up. Fuck you. So it's a Western. You're the lone gunman who's coming in to save the saloon.
Because
Don't
it
tell us
is such a
what
trope.
it
So
is.
for him to say that, and you know, and at the
No,
end, and I
we're
think that
not
I like the
Scream.
callback
This
at the
isn't
end when she's
meta.
like, "Okay, maybe you're not the hero, but you're definitely not the villain," kind of
I
thing.
get that, but her walking in and basically describing what the whole plot point of Roadhouse was, fuck off. Shut up. Shut the hell up.
Because it is a copy of every Western and
I
everything that
get
ever
that,
happened.
but you don't just call out the movie for doing that. You're not Scream. This isn't meta. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But I just really could not stand that character. she was giving me oh god, the little kid from Speed Racer vibes
Oh,
the whole way.
don't ever compare anything in this to Speed Racer. That's one of the worst movies ever made.
I'm talking about the younger brother. The younger
It doesn't
brother
matter.
character.
The entire movie, nothing
I
is
think is
compared to
I
Speed
could
Racer.
not stand her character so much.
I will say one of the things as far as the changes from the original, one of the things I did like very much so, I loved the move to the Florida Keys because I loved the vibe of it. I like that it was
Where
a
was
different
the original
setting.
one at?
It's like
It's like-
Mississippi, Alabama, you know, that kind of place.
Something like that. Yeah.
But it was like I just liked that it was kind of a different vibe to it, and kind of gave a, you know, besides just having, you know, beautiful, you know, landscapes and palm trees and things like that, it just had that kind of vibe to it, especially in the Roadhouse itself, you know, and kind of the music style and things like that. I liked the change there. It felt more
I had no
updated
problem with that.
instead of just being like some 80s country thing, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, I had no problem with that. I did roll my eyes at the very, very end when the random server dude's like, "Y'all open?" It's like,
Yeah. That was a
really?
little,
Like,
which okay,
really?
can you explain to me, unless he did and we just didn't see it, all that money he stole from the cop, he gave to Charlie for the bookstore. Maybe give some of that to the Roadhouse that you got such up knowledge in your giant
Maybe he
fight.
did, but once again, we didn't see it.
But that's what I'm saying. Maybe he did, and we didn't see it.
Because
But as
I
far as, you know,
honestly thought he put it on the boat and just sent it out to sea. Like
that's what I
that's
thought at first.
what I
But
did
then once the
too.
bookstore burned down, I'm like, I bet he still has that money somewhere because he might have needed it if he did try to, you know,
Yeah.
ransom back. What's her name? The
Frankie?
doctor. Thank
Oh
you.
yeah. Well, I don't. Her character, her
Um,
name's not important because her character wasn't important in the long scheme of it all.
But I get that he didn't like just send the money away. But I really did think, I'm like, okay, as they're getting towards the end, like, okay, he's going to give some to the bookstore, he's going to give some to the Roadhouse, and then he does. I'm like, did you just took all their money to pay you for half the time you weren't doing anything, and then now you're just going to leave them stiff with the rebuilding the whole
But
place.
that's the other thing. That's the other thing too. Like in terms of like the character, like once again, not like say going back to the original, Swayze was never going to abandon the Roadhouse. Like when shit got real, I mean, he considered it, but then they killed, you know, Sam Elliott. And he was like, I'm
Mhm.
burning everything down to the ground. And here, like the character was like, oh, Knox showed up and kind of beat the shit. Like he beat me in a fight, so I just walked away because it's like, oh, I might kill somebody, dude. They were gonna kill you at that
Yeah.
point. Like, he just straight up like, kind of almost like just Charlie Brown's it, like just pouts his head and just walks off.
But
And
then again,
leaves the
you
middle of
have
the
that
fight.
thing where they burn the bookstore and put those people in the hospital, which turns around. He does go on. That's when the movie gets really dark because he goes from just like beating people up and taking them to the hospital to I'm on a killing spree. He's like just punched a dude's throat till he died. He's killing everybody he runs into. It's like he's just on a pure vengeance.
Except for Mo. He didn't
Except
kill
for
Mo.
Mo.
The whole time, I'm like, don't kill Mo. Please don't kill Mo.
It's funny. Mo's just like, you know, hey man, I just like riding motorcycles. It's hard to do alone.
Yeah, I didn't. He looked really heavy. Good for you. That's all that like, good for you that you carried him. But yeah, no, I was like, and honestly, it would make more sense if Mo started to work at the Roadhouse and helped them out.
You should have recruited him. Yeah.
Exactly. He should have been a part of that. But like, the character made no sense if he was just like, I'm too scared. I'm going to do something bad. And then you burn the bookshelf down, which once again, that's the Sam Elliott moment for this one, which, okay, you got to have a reason to stay. But then it's like, you get that moment where it hit the, what's her name's dad is like, they took my daughter. They took my daughter. Help me. And then they go back. Oh no, dude! I was just trying to get you here. He didn't take my daughter.
Actually, clearly Dalton didn't believe it. I didn't believe it either. He's like, "There's no way."
No, but there was no reason for like the double cross. Ooh, double cross. It's like we don't need that. It was unnecessary.
I felt like he was just fucking with me. He's like, I know, dude, this is not a surprise to me.
Oh
You
no.
guys
It
are
was
not
just
very
more. It was
funny."
more the characters. Like we didn't need that. Like, oh yeah, actually I did take her. It's like just you could have just had him be like, yeah, they did take my daughter, but I'm still not like a good guy. Like I'm still bad. Because at the end of the day, nothing really gets resolved. Her dad, like you said, her dad's still free. He's still free to like be like this dirty cop kind of thing. Like they never like she's like, just get out of here. We'll cover for you. And it's like that didn't sit right with me. It's like no, it's like things are still wrong here. Like you didn't really if you took care of Brandt. Well, actually Knox killed Brandt. Like you don't think Father Brandt is still gonna have goons come in and still try to take care of things? Just because
Well,
it's
that's just it. Well, he's gonna because Father Brandt is now out there. You've now killed his son and ruined his plans for whatever those plans were, and it's like
there's a lot.
I mean, maybe they're looking to do. Amazon's trying to make this a franchise. I don't know.
Well, like I said, I'm not mad if we get Gyllenhaal and even Connor back based off the post-credit scene, but it's like I'm not mad to see them come back, but they just need to focus on a tone. Either go Fast and the Furious, like fun, like cartoony violence without the Fast and Furiousness of it, or keep it dark and serious with this. I'm cool either way. Just pick one. Pick one and I'll ride the wave and I will have fun either way. But I just can't do the ping pong back and forth where it's like, oh, this is a serious fucking fight. And then, oh, the piano's out of tune.
Well,
Be nice.
That's my thing is it starts out fun and it gets dark, which a lot of even most of your comedies these days do that. They start out just pure comedy and they get more dramatic at the end. And so I can ride that wave into the serious second half, but then you shove in those little moments, completely out of place moments, and you're like, whoa.
Exactly. Like I have no problem with it starting fun and getting serious, but you went back. You're doing this, and I was like, I can't figure out how I'm supposed to be feeling in these scenes. Conor McGregor was the reason I knew how to feel because Conor is fully on this side.
You knew just to grin through the whole movie.
But he's on the side of 80s fun. So with Conor was on
beyond that because even the 80s movie, was sitting there just grinning through the entire movie.
Did you see some of the acting in that movie?
I did, and none of the serious, none of like the bad guys were just smiling ear to ear through every single scene, even in the middle of a fight.
He is if he likes to fight. He likes to have fun.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Let's bring this full circle and talk a little more about Conor.
He didn't have the iconic line of "I used to fuck guys like you in prison," but because honestly, I thought there was gonna be that line where he had him right before he flipped it. I thought like, here's the line, he's gonna say it.
I could have totally seen Conor McGregor's character saying that line, honestly.
Because I was honestly thought that what was gonna happen after he like stabbed him like a bunch of times. Which first off, didn't he stab Dalton like in the exact same spot he got stabbed in the beginning of the movie?
Yeah. I swear I thought it was gonna be like, oh, there's scar tissue. It protected me.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, oh, I was like, precision wise, you stabbed him in the exact same spot he got stabbed earlier, so it's not gonna hurt. But like what I was expecting to have happen, and I'm kind of glad. I'm glad we didn't get it. But I was expecting because it's like, oh, it's Roadhouse. Was like he stabs him, and he walks towards Daniela because you can see Conor still breathing. Like I'm looking at him, like he's still alive. He's not dead.
Yeah, but he's been stabbed a whole bunch of times.
But it's Conor. He's like a fucking transformer in this, or Terminator in this movie. I was expecting Conor to get back up behind him and then him turn around and do the throat grab and actually end Conor. Like I was prepared for it because
that would have been a fun moment.
The way the camera was angling, like I was like, I see space over his shoulder. I'm expecting Conor to rise up behind him, and then Daniela's eyes will get big, and he'll just turn around. And then I was.
The thing is, they don't want to do that because again, that credit sequence leads me to believe they're hoping to make a sequel to this movie.
But no, instead
first of all, the fact that he survived all those stabbings, like, okay, it's hard to believe enough.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't be up and walking around kicking people's ass to get out of the hospital, doing that same waddle, by the way, out of the hospital. And it's like I just could not.
I think they really just wanted Conor McGregor's ass on screen as much as possible.
Which I will say, his first scene I thought was a pretty epic entrance. It's like you see him dropping down, like, oh, here's Conor, and they turn out you see him naked ass waddling away, and I'm like, I'm like,
Wait,
okay,
hold
this is
on.
fun. And I even like his big grin, like, hey, fuck you, kind of thing. And I'm just like, okay, I like Conor McGregor in this movie. I didn't realize that was going to be his one note for the entire movie, though.
Oh, that's the one note. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed it. I wrote him down for best villain for our awards thing because I was like, he's having fun. I had a blast. I would watch him play this character again because this is the tone I was ready for. This is the tone I wanted for the movie. But yeah, it's just like I said, I had fun watching it, but it didn't mean that I was not going, kind of wish they would have done this instead, or man, I wish they would have gone this route. It's just like I said, and Jake's wanted to have Jake. I feel like Jake so badly wanted to have more fun than what he actually did get to have in the movie. Because there's so many. I love the line. Like I said, I love that first scene where he's like, "Where's the nearest hospital? Is it far? How far is it? I want to make sure you guys are okay." Because I love that. I'm pretty sure the main guy, the one who gets eaten by the crocodile, I'm pretty sure he's the main actor who is playing like the Jax character in that spinoff of Sons of Anarchy, Mayans. Pretty sure he's the main lead in that. So to like have that be like almost like the Jax teller of it all, just getting his ass bitch slapped by a doll. I thought that was great. I really enjoyed that. And then I love that they had the little callback to the crocodile because they kept dropping this line about the crocodile.
Did they teach that to you guys in kindergarten?
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, they did. And honestly, from someone who lived in Florida, they teach that shit. Because I was in second grade, and I went from Ohio down to there, and they were talking. I'm like, is this something that we actually have to worry? Yes, it is. There was literally a street.
Which actually, I think that's the first point in the movie where the alligator actually ate the dude. I'm like, oh shit, this movie's going dark.
Yeah, there was literally a street that in our neighborhood that we were told never to ride our bikes down. It was called Alligator Alley because there were alligators it was like a little slope hill, and you would ride a bike on the top of it, and alligators would like wait right here, and they would snatch and grab your bike and cause you to fall, and then another one would grab you and pull you in, and people were missing, and like they taught you that shit in Florida. So like that stuff, I was like, yeah, they teach you that shit. Like there's places you don't go because they're
just call that body disposal alley. That's where you go if you want to get rid of something.
I mean, Jacksonville does some crazy shit. But yeah, it's like I didn't hate it, but I was disappointed a little bit with what it was because I just but like I said, had I not watched Roadhouse, I probably would have been more like, I don't understand what like it tries to be wacky and then tries to be serious, but then I was like, okay, I understand they're trying to do that, but not fully want to.
I'd be curious. Now, I'm sure you're not gonna do it like real soon, like I did, but I'd be curious after a second viewing how you feel about the movie because, like I said, I was able to know going in, and kind of it boosted my rating a little bit. Now, there's still obviously like those moments, like the piano attitude and things like that.
Yeah,
those moments it's still like oh, I don't get that.
There's been a couple times this weekend already where I've wanted to go back and rewatch it. Just because my girlfriend hasn't seen it yet. Now, granted, she can hear me talking this whole review right now, so we've spoiled the whole fucking movie for her already, so she's probably not gonna care to watch it now. But
hope you feel better.
Yeah, but yeah, it's I've just been a few times where I'm like, I kind of want to go back and rewatch it because it is fun. It's fun. I guess I don't know. I don't want to say I expected more because it's not that it under delivered what it gave me. It delivered what it promised. I just didn't necessarily like how it was delivered to me all the way. And I think you agree to a point.
Yeah, because I expected more of the movie to be like the first half, essentially, because the trailer kind of played up the fun side. It didn't play up the dark stuff as much. And I have no problem with it going dark, like you said. I feel like I would have enjoyed the movie even more if it had kept that tone through the movie.
And that was what I knew because I read your little mini review before we did this, and I was like, okay, we both seem to enjoy it, but on different like you enjoyed it, but you hated Conor McGregor.
You liked
it because of Conor. I loved Conor McGregor, and so I was just like, this is gonna be a fun conversation because it's like I know exactly what I liked out of it, but I don't think he liked it the same way I liked it. So I knew this was gonna be an interesting conversation. Yeah. But anyway, what were your guys' thoughts? Did you guys like Roadhouse 2024? Do you prefer the 1980s version? Do you prefer this version? What did you guys think of Conor McGregor? I know I'm not acting on an acting scale because he's fucking atrocious. But do you think he understood the assignment? Do you think you had fun watching him, or did you despise his performance like Brian did. Let us know in the comments below. Like I said, final score, you gave it 4 stars. I gave it a 64%, which is like right below 3.5 stars for me. It's a 3-star movie. It could bump up. It could bump up to on a rewatch to a 3.5. Because I think initially, like right when it ended, I was like, it's a solid 7. It's a solid 7.
Yes, I had a 3.5 after the first few, and I bumped up to 4 on this one.
Yeah, and it dropped down because I got irked at Dalton doesn't really do any bodyguarding or any bouncering at this movie. And then there's no this, and it's like, so I dropped it down like 6 points. But maybe on a rewatch it won't bother me as much. Who knows? But we hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys did, hit that like, share, subscribe to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all these videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. Of course, you can follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Out right now, we have our non-spoiler and spoiler discussion to Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. But we will be coming back here for the new episode of the Movie Crusaders Chat About, where we're going to be talking about the first 2 episodes of X-Men 97. We both, I forgot to say this on the Ghostbusters one, we both saw Love's Lies Bleeding. So we both will have a little mini review for that, as well as a slew of trailers that have dropped here in the past week and a half, because there's a lot of them, as well as news for James Bond and news for Scream 7. So I hope you guys tune in for that. But until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch the movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.